Comes to us as the incoming Southern Conference Commissioner, Jim Schaus. This is a league that I have followed for many a year, and I've always thought it was a little underrated, but let's face it, it could go either way right now. Could it become a premier mid-major basketball league and restore its place as the top football conference in FCS? Well, it's a possibility, but yeah, the football has dropped, and that could continue. Still never had two bids into the NCAA tournament. That's very much like the Big South. Well, Jim Schaus joins me here where he is, I guess, in your final days as the athletic director at Ohio before taking over in the Southern Conference. And I guess the first question, where to begin right now, but what was appealing to you about becoming the Southern Conference Commissioner? Why was this a better job than what you had right now?
One thing I really like about a commissioner's position is that you get to see different angles, you get to deal with some of the highest issues in working with conference commissioners. At this stage of my career, I enjoy that piece of it. Also, it's great because you're really focusing on championships that you run, so that's kind of the filet mignon, if you will, of college athletics for our student athletes. And you really get to put on some outstanding events, so I really enjoy that. My father, from 1954 to 1959, those 6 seasons with West Virginia, they were in the Southern Conference at that time, had a lot of success, and it was really meaningful to him. It really started and launched his career. So the family connection is there too, but many other things. Great reputation of the conference. My wife and I had lived in Charlotte before. We love this area of the country.
Mm-hmm.
Just a lot of things came into place, and just really looking forward to working with our great membership of 10 schools and to build the program even further.
Well, you mentioned your father, Frank Schaus, and I know Jerry West played for him, and, he's getting the Presidential Medal of Freedom as Jerry West. I know every Monday at 1:30, I talk to SoCon John Hooper of Mid-Major Madness and also Medium.com, and we discuss what's going on in the Southern Conference, and we debated who the greatest basketball player was in the history of the Southern Conference. Was it Jerry West? Was it Steph Curry? Or was it somebody else like, I don't know, Keith Mr. Jennings, somebody like that? So we're familiar. In fact, I believe your father took West Virginia to the brink of the national championship. They played for it in 1959 and lost a close game, I believe, to California, if my memory is correct here.
Correct.
And so I want to ask you, do you think it is possible, this is a mid-major conference, but do you think it is possible to win a national championship? And by this, I don't necessarily mean the FCS. Let's say a major national championship, NCAA tournament, either men or women's, College World Series, something like that. Is that possible out of the Southern Conference?
I think it's definitely possible. It may not be probable by many people's views, but
Sure.
Just think back a few years ago when George Mason made the Final Four. When you get to the Final Four, you got 2 games, and anything can happen at that stage. So it kind of goes against the odds when a Butler or a Wichita State get to a Final Four. But if you can get a program there, the Wofford program this year really was had just a magical.
Mm-hmm.
Or the teams in the conference really could have. Any one of those could have been an at-large consideration program. So it's certainly not something that you would be super likely. But I also think that if you can, Wofford, wasn't hitting shots against Kentucky, they could have advanced that game. So I really think, the goal, I think, from a basketball standpoint for us is to kind of maintain that excellence. We were ranked 11th in the country this year in men's basketball. That's outstanding. So how do we maintain that success and try to build it? And, this certainly would have been a year that a second team would have been in the NCAA if Wofford had not won the conference championship. So a lot of progress, but we've got to keep that maintained and build it in the future.
Well, we're talking to Jim Schaus, the incoming Southern Conference Commissioner, and I'll go on record. I've said this many a time. Geez, if Bob McKillop could have gotten Steph Curry to take the last shot at the end of the Kansas game in the NCAA tournament a little over a decade ago, Davidson would have gone on and won the national title. I really do believe that, by the way. But there you have it right there. But you mentioned Wofford and UNCG just missing. A lot of people think they were the 69th team in...
Right.
You know, the last team that missed it. Now, you've been in the selection committee 3 times. What does the Southern Conference have to do to become a 2-bid league and really, therefore, have a regular season with some sort of validation to it and such? What does the SoCon have to do to be a 2-bid league, Jim Schaus?
Well, I think they've really moved in the right direction. You look where you were 4 or 5 years ago in the conference in terms of its ranking being 20th, 19th, move up to 11th. When your top teams are playing other teams in the league, it's really helping out in terms of the RPI or the new net. I think it's about scheduling. I think you've got to schedule smart. You have to have your best teams challenge themselves. You want to make sure the bottom part of your conference doesn't overschedule and gets wins, so that your ranking is higher, and when you get into conference play, you're not hurting those top teams. So scheduling is important. Obviously, any investment that the schools make into the programs in any capacity is always a plus. But I think there's a lot of opportunities in the future. When I was on the committee, there's more sentiment towards mid-major opportunities now than there was in the past. I think you really have to take a look at a really percentage of opportunities. NC State might have 13 losses in a given year, but they have lots of opportunities to get some of those good wins.
Mm-hmm.
City is looking at a team that might have 4 or 5 really, really tough games, and they win most of them. So I think there is also a lot of committee members right now and conference commissioners. You look at the lineup right now that are from mid-major conferences. So there's a lot of things, and I really do believe that us getting 2 teams into the tournament, and also you want to strive to get high seeding for any team that makes it, I think is around the corner.
Now, is there something that you can do as a former selection committee member and now as the commissioner to really promote that? I mean, I can recall when Appalachian State was in the league, they tried everything one year to get an at-large bid. They put out a page ad in USA Today, that sort of thing. But based on your background, is there something you can do? Maybe even help schedule for some of your teams?
Yeah, I think you can help. I think sometimes the school wants to schedule up and they can't get some of the teams to play them home and home. You can work with other conferences that have the same issues with their top teams and try to help in scheduling, encourage and assist schools with getting in to the MTEs, the exempt tournaments where you can play, in a tournament, in November and play a couple of really top teams in the country and play them on a neutral court. So those are another way from a scheduling standpoint that you can really help. Once you're in the room, the 10 people, you're really focused in on the whole body of work of the teams. The lobbying doesn't work. We didn't take phone calls and texts, and It's not really like that, and I'm glad it's not. It's really done on really how well the teams have actually done. Every conference has 2 different members of the committee that communicate with them. There's a primary and a secondary committee member. The Southern Conference will have 2 members. And there's periodic calls about once a month, once the season takes place. And we communicate with them statistics, information. We send them press releases on how the conference is doing, what our top teams are. And as a committee member, if I was in charge of the Southern Conference, I'd be watching a lot of Southern Conference basketball games. So would my secondary. So they report back to the room on several times before election week. So there's a formal process for that. But everybody gets a fair shake based on what they've earned.
Okay, we're talking to Jim Schaus. He is the incoming commissioner of the Southern Conference. You mentioned scheduling. Let's talk about scheduling in the Southern Conference and specifically the VMI situation. I mean, this is a program that's been bad, both in basketball and football, and they've been bad for quite some time. And it's disappointing because they used to be very, very good. I mean, VMI 40 years ago was a basketball power in the mid-70s. I could show you times they were ranked in the AP top 25 football poll. It's been quite some time, but I'm not talking about the Division I AA poll. I'm talking about the major college football poll. As recently as 1981, I guess, they beat Virginia Tech, that sort of thing. But they haven't been competitive, and they are holding things down. And, they had a great player named Bubba Parham, who I interviewed on this show. He said, I'm going to stay with the Keydets. He transfers to Georgia Tech. Is there something you can do as the commissioner to say, hey, VMI, it's time you get your program in order here and be more competitive because you're dragging this conference down? Is that something that you can do?
Well, let me just say all the members of the conference have different attributes and things that they bring academically and athletically. And you're going to have programs that are going to maybe stronger in some sports than in others. I think you would probably know this better than me, but it wasn't too many years back, maybe 5 or 6. They had a good season in football, and I think that you want to try to assist in scheduling. Again, there's examples where you can overschedule, get your kids hurt early. So there's certain things that you can do from a commissioner standpoint. A lot of that's going to be on what the institutions, their investment level, where they are. But I think collaboratively, we've been an FCS conference that's averaged about 2.5 teams in the top 25 over the last 6 seasons, and so we have success, and our league's pretty good. So I think that all the schools do have to step up and invest on a regular basis in order to compete.
And I understand that you say they provide something unique and such. I mean, they've been in the conference, although there was a gap once since 1924, and there have been some highlights. And we've interviewed VMI athletes who are from the area or whatnot here, but it just does seem that if you're looking at 2 bids, that you always have this sort of anchor in the league. That doesn't help that RPI out. That could be the difference between UNCG getting the bid or not, or for that matter, Southern Conference football being one of the top football conferences or ranked, say, 4th, that sort of thing. Hey, I got a commercial break here. Can you stick with me and go to 1 o'clock, or is your schedule too busy?
I probably need to get rolling.
Okay, let me hold off the commercial then, and I do want to ask this question of you. More exposure for the SoCon. People don't seem to be happy with, let's say, the TV deal. They don't necessarily like ESPN Plus. I got to spend $5 for a game that I used to always get at ESPN3. I get into the mindset myself, well, if I'm going to do that, I'll just go down to the sports bar that has it on and all that and have dinner there, that sort of thing. So I believe there's 2 years left on the current Southern Conference TV deal. Hey, you're coming from Ohio. I know that it's got a good communications department. What are you looking to do for exposure for the Southern Conference and improve, say, the TV deal or even just content on shows like this coming in the future?
That's a great question, and it's an important question for any conference. You're right. We've just finished year 4 out of 6 with ESPN. We had some over-the-air coverage on Nexstar Media Group broadcasting stations in the region. The technology in the broadcast business is changing so quickly. It's a direct-to-consumer market. Mm-hmm. There's going to be more and more ways that people are going to consume media, games, etc., in a more direct way. It's not going to be unusual for conferences like the Southern Conference, for their digital platform, which we have, schools produce games, to get that on and at a high quality, a digital quality standpoint. The question is going to become, how accessible is it to fans? How much does it cost the schools and the conference to do in terms of, getting a rights fee versus the production cost? How many more linear, more over-the-air type opportunities or more direct opportunities are you able to get as well? And so the bottom line is that in this next year, I'm going to spend a lot of time in researching and seeing what the market bears. And the bottom line is, if you're comprehensive, you're going to see what options do I have. You may have seen where the Colonial Conference just went with a digital package. They got paid, quite a bit, but there's a very high fee with Flow Sports. It's like $12.50 a month. Those are
Yeah.
but the schools really are making some money. I think that's going to be more the rule than the exception in years to come. I think all of our programming, you're going to consume an ESPN package on an app, and you're going to be able to get a lot of the programming with the, with the cord cutting with cable. I think you're going to see a lot more of that. And today, people would bristle at it, but I think, more direct programming to the consumer is going to take place. I think we'll just have to get used to it. So the bottom line is, the point you're making is it's extremely important how our games are consumed by our fans, and we're just going to have to be very comprehensive and cut our best deal. See what's out there. It's also another thing that I would add too is that we're moving into our centennial in 2 years, 100th anniversary. That's another great branding opportunity that we need to take advantage of. So all these things, improving our brand, maintaining men's basketball success and football success, the broadcast package is going to be important, and just maintaining the great things that we're doing right now, whether it's the academic success that we've had, things that we do to host a quality championship for our student athletes. All those things are important in the future, but we want to continue to build and grow off a good base of what we have right now.
Are Southern Conference athletes in the future going to be able to profit off of their image? I mean, you know about the Ed O'Bannon situation and such, but let's just say, you're the quarterback at ETSU. Johnson City Honda has always been a big donor there. That maybe, you could do endorsements for Johnson City Honda as a student athlete, as you say, that Steve Forbes, the basketball coach at ETSU, currently does. Are you in favor of those opportunities being there for the players as well as the coaches?
Yeah, so you're referring to the concept of image and likeness.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly a very controversial, popular discussion point right now. I think one thing you have seen with the cost of attendance that's been added to student athletes, which can be approximately $3,000 a year for a full scholarship student, is to help offset some of the expenses over and above tuition, room, and board. So the NCAA has continued to see little opportunities for that to improve. I think that with one of the cases that you were talking about, not O'Bannon, but Alston case, that there may be some additional opportunities financially for academic oriented things. So more academic expenses that sometimes are out of pocket for a student. I think that will continue. I think there'll be more of those types of things. Image and likeness, I think, is kind of a challenge. It's kind of a slippery slope in terms of, where do you kind of draw the line? How do you demarcate it? I have some concerns about it. I understand and respect where those that support that approach, but it's certainly something that has been discussed for a while. I think that in the next 5 or 10 years, I think there will be small amounts, but more opportunities for financial support for student athletes. I don't think it will go all the way to a pay-per-play type situation. I don't think that would really disrupt the amateur model that I think makes college athletics special.
Okay, sorry, look at that. But you would not. But you're saying that you think the likeness they might be able to, but paying the players, that's probably not going to come about. Is your prediction?
I hope not. I don't think that would be good, and it really doesn't fit on a college campus. They're not paying the cellist or some of the expert students on the campus additional funding over and above a full scholarship. Sometimes people from the outside don't see that, but I don't necessarily think that would be good for college athletics. I do think there'll be some spots where there'll be additional support for students who need it. But just keep in mind that in addition to these additional things in academics, if you're a Pell Grant recipient,
Sure.
have a family that doesn't have any resources at all, I think you can receive up to $5,400. It doesn't have to be paid back. It's not a loan.
Yeah.
But there's other ways to provide compensation and resources for students that don't have enough in addition to a full scholarship. And you just don't remember that, people don't remember that sometimes the value of a college education can be as much as $1 million more than an individual that does not go to college.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of benefit those students are getting.
And I understand that in terms of the pay to player and all this. And frankly, I think there'd be tremendous resentment also from the regular student body if you did have paying the players. I'm not saying that that makes it wrong. I'm not saying that that makes it right. But I do think that there would be tremendous resentment if a basketball or football player is getting paid and straight A student over here is, spending every night in the library and not enjoying that. I think that there would be.
Good point.
Yeah, and such. And so, I do, though, want to, do you have a problem with a player? Let's say ETSU sells a Jerome Rodriguez jersey, and Rodriguez gets a percentage of that. It's on the table right now. Are you in favor of that?
I don't know if I would actually say in favor. I think you have to, if image and likeness becomes something that is inevitable and it becomes approved, I think you have to define it. I don't think I can answer that question in a direct sense. It depends on how it was situated. I have concerns about it just because it would be difficult to implement, to talk about it. Are you having a student being able to go to a local car dealership and receive money for that, for advertising or things like that? And I think it would be difficult to quantify, very difficult for the compliance staff to monitor. So there are some unintended consequences with that approach. I like the idea of funding, helping them on the academic side as much as possible, providing postgraduate opportunities if they wanted to get a master's degree, pay for that, all of their expenses. And I think that I think those are better approaches. But I think you're going to continue to hear those comments. But I think as the NCAA provides more opportunities for that, I think it lessens that burden on those individuals.
That's a very interesting idea, Masters on a Scholarship. Well, I know I'm late for a break. I know you got to go, and so this can't be the only time we talk, Jim Schaus. Welcome to SoCon. I think you're going to find that it is a wonderful league, and you better keep it that way, okay? Here, Tri-City Sports Now. I'm Marky Billson. We'll be back after this. How do you like